Peace, brothers. Greetings, gentlemen. Friends. Listeners. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be making this little monologue. With the way things are going, I wasn't confident of any future podcasts down the line. I wasn't confident of making any more content for this channel, really. I was wanted and intended to speak about the current situation. I don't have any complaints, really. I mean, I was going to say how all the concepts about solitude and the discussions on developing some self-discipline, our habits of abstination and developing habits of self-contentment should have equipped us for periods such as this lockdown, such as this government powered hysteria of paranoia and neighbour looking at neighbour, people reporting each other for going out twice a day, and how the Matrix shows its true teeth. Everyone's a prisoner in their own home. But I think we know that most people are not doing that well. The NHS and nearly all the medical bodies and organisations are saying how mental health is now a huge concern due to the effects of the lockdown. But just making it through such a rigged bias system. I mean, when you're a man in this Me Too climate, in this all men are potential rapists climate, in this dog eat dog society, it's something, to make it from beginning to end. I was just watching a Chris Hedges on Contact episode where he talks about American men, particularly veterans, committing suicide. Between 2001 and 2020, more American veterans died of suicide than during combat. Well, I think my stance is very clear. I tell all men, all self-respecting men, honourable men, that joining the military in its current state, joining the police force in its current leadership, is a shame. That is no good for a man, nor his soul, to be part of these disgraceful, not fit for purpose, gynocentric, misandric organisations. You will, in the end, destroy yourself being part of such a corrupt system. But how does a man make it then? I mean, the entire game is rigged from beginning to end. You have to play by their rules, and they don't. They can break the rules anytime. It turns out Joe Biden's a rapist, but because he's now the front man of a Me Too party, it don't matter. So all women are to be believed until she accuses one of their men. But we should know by now that, regardless of which part you vote, nothing's going to change in that era. I mean, the fact that people keep voting for the same party that they complain about is a testament to where we are now as a society. Same people I hear complaining about how terrible things are, about how awful the government policies are, end up walking into the polling booth and voting for the exact same people that they complain about. So why do we bother? Why don't we just lock ourselves up in our homes, do our gardening, clean our homes, learn to mend our own fabric and DIY our own plumbing and electrics and engines, and just watch the world crumble around us? It's the best we can hope for, right? I mean, society is broken. There's no community anymore. Surely, if it's one thing this lockdown taught us, is nobody really gives a shit about each other, do they? I mean, so long as the individual is alright. Yeah, but how long can that go on for then? With the death of fatherhood, can the death of family, and something I hoped we could address at least is the death of brotherhood. Why should the death of family be the death of brotherhood? In fact, I was trying to raise the issue of chivalry, the practice of how knights should act, the etiquettes between each knight and the other was very similar to the practice of how one gentleman should treat another. I think in this day and age, what could be more necessary? I mean, just taking the most simple concept of men keeping their word. How often have you heard someone who's gone back on their promise? They'll say, well, did you hear me say that I promise or I swear? But a man's word is his promise. And what is a man if he's not his word? Yeah, I think as individuals we can do better. I think there's always the danger of seeing corruption all around us, of seeing the society and world we know around us crumble and decay. There's always that danger that it affects us as well. We crumble and decay alongside our environment and surroundings. We are corrupted by the infection, the immorality, the debauchery, as a brother puts it, a complete lack of male character. Nobody even knows what it is anymore. We are feminists trying to define, trying to tell us what masculinity is. They're pumping this ignorance, this idiocy into our kids at school, and if you have any say, if you have any authority over your kids, you should know by now you should not be sending those kids to comprehensive government-run schools. There are much better alternatives. People over the past 70, 80 years have been fighting, getting in prison, getting killed, so they can educate and bring up their children in a better way, in a more moral and practical and a much more higher caliber way than what's now being proven to be a government brain polluting propaganda centre for turning young, creative, imaginative, free minds into brain dead, zombified automatons. But I digress. I think one thing this lockdown's taught is the fact that things aren't always going to go according to plan. If any of you remember a video I did a while ago, I said no one knows, no man, no human really knows what's going to happen. And it makes me think about some of the things we used to talk about, how we can be so afraid, we can be so precautious about the future, we can end up having no future. Wouldn't that be a terrible thing? Wouldn't that be even worse than having a precarious future? But one full of challenges and opportunities. I can already hear some of you saying, well, the answer is obviously trying to strike that balance of navigating your way through the rigged game, but taking as much precaution as possible from the infection and corruption that surrounds us. It seems every generation now is worse than the previous one. Every generation seems to be getting it worse than the previous one. I wonder if the kids of today will be decrying the same blame that we did, that we blamed of the previous generation. Something which is a food for thought, and perhaps some of you might take it on board so you're not so harsh on yourself, is for the grown man, for the man that ponders on his surroundings, for the man that realizes that he's just one creature, one being amongst billions, and before him there was billions, and possibly after him there'll be billions, on one small planet within one small solar system, within one quadrant of one Milky Way, within the galaxy of the universe, ever expanding. We're not even a drop in the ocean, but our solitude, our default position, our actions, our words, it made me think of this one saying from a TV series that I'm sure some of you must have seen. In the last season of the Game of Thrones, there was one line in season 8. There was one line, and it stuck in my head ever since I heard him say it. It coincides with this concept of how minuscule we are as individuals amongst this vast thread of timelines and lives and past and present and future events. Yeah, that line from the Game of Thrones, it was when the Northern Army was cornered into one fort and they were facing apparent death. And one of them said, death is actually just forgetting everything and being forgotten by everything. And even though I didn't agree with that, I still don't agree with that. It did make me think about my own memory. As you guys know, I've been forgetting some things. I mean, compared to how I used to be, I mean, I could listen to a 1 hour lecture once and I'd be able to repeat it evermore. Every statement, almost word for word. And then today, to forget people, to forget certain events. That phrase from the Game of Thrones made me think, is that what dying is? To slowly forget what happened, to slowly forget who you are, to slowly forget what you are. And in solitude we cut ties, we separate, very much like the lockdown today. Neighbour doesn't know neighbour. Community ties don't exist. Family seems to be reserved for the rich and the elites that can afford to buy their family. But real family bonds seem to have vanished. We don't do things now because these are our brothers, or these are our fathers, or these are our sons. So we're forgotten in our isolation. Who is this man that lives in this house? Who was the man that cut, trimmed, landscaped this area? Who was this man that wrote this piece or spoke about this subject? Are we just living to die? Or, as a friend of mine puts it, are we death within living? I realised that one of the main reasons I listen to music, one of the main purposes I listen to my long and lengthy playlist, which I've collected over the past 35 years now. I've got tracks dating back to the 20s, tracks from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way to modern day, where people are sharing their music on any social platform. One of the main reasons I listen to my playlist is because each song reminds me of a certain event or a certain place, a certain people. And when I'm listening to the song, all of a sudden, all those feelings and state of mind floods back. It is like being alive again.